Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Odin's Movie Blog. I am the critic who is a cynic. Hope you're doing well. And today we have got some great news. But before we get into that, we have to talk about the fact that yesterday I was building the PC. I got very, very frustrated. And for anyone that was watching, for the 15, 16, I think at one point 20 people who were watching, the frustration, if you had fun, if you enjoyed that, great. I'm glad that you got something out of it. I just felt that I was being very non-productive. I felt like it was a waste of some people's time. And so I just want to apologize for my frustrations and trying to figure everything out. The PC has been built. This monster, this monstrosity next to me that has wires sticking out all over the place is indeed working. So hopefully it means that I'm actually going to start to be able to do more things like I was originally planning on to do. But I just wanted to get that out there because I, unlike other people, unlike a lot of people, especially, SJWs who, make mistakes all the time, I will obviously always own up to the mistakes that I make. I will always own up when I am wrong. I will always own up when I do something that I am not proud of. And I just wanted to make that very clearly before talking about the news today. And I just want to thank every single one of you for being so supportive of not only me through yesterday, obviously Dion, Mr. Peabody, especially, were the voices inside my head helping me, work through the process, but also every single other person that's been a part of this channel and been part of this journey. It's a lot of fun. All right, anyway, so let's get into the news. So a couple things to talk about, both Disney related. The first is that Netflix has actually canceled a Marvel show, and the first one on the list to be canceled is Iron Fist. Now, I know some people are going to be not surprised by this news. I myself am kind of mixed on it because it makes sense to me that this was definitely the one show that didn't succeed as well as the others did. I know this is the one show that people thought just didn't really connect, just wasn't very well done, and that might be true. However, what makes me most frustrated about all of this is that this was not the worst show. This was not the most cringeworthy show that Marvel has. The most cringeworthy show, and get your trigger warning ready, is without a doubt Jessica Jones. Jessica Jones is absolute garbage. Season 1 had some moments. I think it was mostly due to David Tennant's performance as the villain, Kilgrave. Kilgrave was a great character, and of course, Kilgrave is gone out of the first season. Season 2 was probably one of the worst things that I have ever forced myself to watch all the way through. When we have Iron Fist, were there some bad moments, some cringeworthy moments? You're damn right. But were there some moments you're like, that's okay? Yes, absolutely. In fact, this show at least had one character that I loved. Colleen Wing is probably one of my favorite Marvel characters that has been brought into the Netflix series world because of just not only how much of a badass she is, but also because her character is interesting. Her character is compelling, and also the actress playing her is fantastic. Compare that to Jessica Jones, where everything you see is just, oh my God, just shut up and stop with the just hitting you over and over and over again, over the head with political messaging. Just the fact alone that they were like, oh, we're only going to have female directors and female writers because that is what true equality is. It's like, no, hire the best people for the job. If it happens to be a woman, great. If it happens to be a man, great. Instead of just trying to say, oh, we're going to be the identity politics show, and instead we're just going to, forsake good storytelling for just trying to make sure that it's the most inclusive and most diverse series of all time, is just not what you should be doing with a Marvel show. You should be making it entertaining, and at the end of the day, Iron Fist was more entertaining than Jessica Jones. There, I said it. There are being some people who are saying, oh, dude, you're so off base, or oh, dude, you don't know what you're talking about, and not even the ones who are like, oh my gosh, you're just a sexist. You just can't stand a strong female. No, I actually have no problem with that. In fact, I just mentioned Colleen Wing. Colleen Wing is great. If they made an entire show on Colleen Wing, guess what? I would watch that because the actress is great, the story is great, the character is great, and it's entertaining. It's fun. Jessica Jones, not so much. Not so much fun. Very, very cringeworthy. But anyway, it has indeed been canceled. Will not be returning for season 3. There's Colleen Wing right there. And, obviously the biggest controversy is over Danny Rand just because not the strongest actor in the world, not the best performance in the world. But I really do think that the biggest reason to me why this show failed to really grasp audiences, really failed to really, take hold of the Marvel universe and especially the Marvel fan base is the fact that he's supposed to be a martial arts expert and he barely does any martial arts. And the martial arts that he does do is just not good. Daredevil has better martial arts in the show. Luke Cage, especially season 2, had much better martial arts in the show. And this is a character, and again, those are characters and those are series dealing with people who have actual superpowers, people who are known for having super strength, people who are known for having, unbreakable skin. This guy is known for his martial arts. Obviously he has the Iron Fist, but he's also primarily known for being able to kick a person's butt just by fighting. And it was always unbelievable to see him in fight scenes, and it was just always never as good as it could have been. They could have done so much with this show. They could have made it probably the most badass, the most kick-ass show of all time, and they just failed to do that. But, as it says there, in a truly wily turn of events, Netflix has canceled Iron Fist, the first of the streaming giant's multiple Marvel properties to get the axe. The first season of the show, starring Finn Jones and Jessica Henwick, got abysmal reviews from critics. It had a blistering 37 rating on Metacritic. And at the end of the day, I don't care what critics say. These same critics who gave it a 37 rating gave a huge rating to Jessica Jones Season 2. And guess what? Jessica Jones Season 2 sucked. So I'm not going to listen to the critics on this one because it's just absolutely stupid, because these critics have no idea what they're talking about. But at the end of the day, this show is gone. So please let me know in the comments below. Do you think this was the right move? Do you think this show deserved to be canceled? Do you think that it deserved one more season? I personally was fine with it coming out. I mean, obviously, I don't know how Netflix really gauges whether a show is successful or not. I'm assuming they have some kind of metric. I'm assuming they have some kind of ability to see how many people are actually watching the show and whether or not it's worth it, whether or not people are actually buying subscriptions to it. But if that is the mindset, I want to know those numbers behind Jessica Jones. And I guarantee you, one of the reasons why they would never release those numbers is probably because it's not very high, and they don't care about that because they care more about giving political messaging in that film and identity politics than they do about actually putting out a good product, because that is what the current state of Disney is. That's what the current state of Marvel is, which is why a lot of us are very worried about Captain Marvel, because Brie Larson and the media surrounding it have already been promoting that kind of identity politics, that, woman power, the futurist female nonsense, which most people just don't care about, because most people just want a good film with a good character development. And if we don't get that, guess what? Captain Marvel is not going to be successful, and also the future of the Marvel Universe is not going to be good either. So I would love to hear your thoughts on Iron Fist. Another piece of news today is, oh boy, Oscar Isaac. Oscar Isaac is the one who came out in an interview recently and said, oh yeah, I think that, Poe Dameron, I don't think he would discriminate against who he would love. Basically in the interview itself, because he was addressing certain concerns that, one in the graphic novel or the comic or the book rather, that explains, those little tiny things that, characters wear, and trying to say, oh, here's the backstory behind it. And he wears a ring, a wedding ring around his head, and says that he's waiting for the right partner. And so of course people online were like, oh my gosh, partner, that doesn't have a gender to it, so he could possibly be homosexual, he could possibly be gay. And it was like, okay, why is that being the focus of this? Why is that matter for this character? Again, that relationships with any characters really should never be the main focus. I mean, when you look to the original trilogy, there was a romance between Han and Leia, but guess what? It was never the focus. It was always the background, and it helped to support the story. This, however, Oscar Isaac's like, oh, essentially, basically, not only is Lando Calrissian now pansexual thanks to Solo, especially thanks to the writer Solo, but now Oscar Isaac has now put that thought out into the atmosphere when talking about Poe Dameron. But now he's saying that the reason why The Last Jedi backlash is happening, or at least it's comparable to the backlash that the prequels had. Now, let us be very clear here. The prequels got backlash from critics, from newspapers, from the media, because they were obsessed with the fact that, oh my gosh, this has racist tendencies to it, and oh my goodness, the identity. And so basically they were playing identity politics, and that's why the media hated it. Fans were not fans of it because of the fact that it was just it was George Lucas's bad dialogue on display without really strong performances to back it up from most of the from a lot of the key figures, especially when you go to Anakin Skywalker, not only as a kid but also as an adult. And then of course you also have Padme, great actress portraying it. Natalie Portman's a great actress, but she just was not bringing it to that role, and that goes into the fact that George Lucas is not very good at bringing out the best performances of his actors, and he's great at building a universe, but not very good when it comes to that. So that's the reason why the prequels did not do very well. The Last Jedi is not the same. The Last Jedi is not the same because on paper you could say that, oh no, the film looks beautiful. It's very well shot. You could say there are certain elements of the film that are positive from mostly a technical standpoint. You really can't go into the actual storyline because the storyline is flawed. The storyline does have a lot of flaws to it, but you can't compare it to the prequels. It's just very, very different. So let's see what he says here. He says, the Disney era of Star Wars has always had its detractors, but Last Jedi surely endured the biggest backlash of the past 4 films in the franchise. While it received a positive critical reception, again, those critic rating, again, we talked about that over the last few things that I've been talking about today, critical reception, and a lot of love in some quarters of the fandom, many militantly hated the surprising storytelling decisions that writer director Rian Johnson made surprising storytelling decisions. Yes, let's call it that. With some calling for him to be removed from his upcoming trilogy or The Last Jedi to be wiped from canon altogether, because it should. It should be. And it's not because of surprising plot twists. It's because the plot points that he puts into the film break Star Wars. It does not work. It is a continuity nightmare. And on top of all of that, it just doesn't make any sense. So no, it has nothing to do with militant people saying, oh, we want this taken out of canon. Well, it has to be. If it's not taken out of canon, then the Star Wars universe is left with a lot of problems, mainly hyperspace ramming. Let's talk about that for a second. So what's it like to be a part of the cast of a movie that divided the fan base in this way? IndieWire spoke to Oscar Isaac, who plays Ace Pilot Poe Dameron, who I thought could have been a very cool character until The Last Jedi, when his character was completely just emasculated on every single level, because that's what we have to do now. That's the identity. That's what identity politics calls for in Hollywood today. And he opened up about his reaction to everything. First of all, he said that he didn't take it personally, as he's one part of the cast and not necessarily one of the most important people in putting the movie together. Luckily, since I'm not directing, producing it, or distributing it, I don't have to worry so much about fan expectations. Also, not all fans have the same expectations, but a lot of fans, about half the fan base, the hardcore fan base at the very least, have problems with this film, and has very little to do with the fact other than it being a nightmare as far as it being a narrative storytelling. People had strong feelings, but there wasn't as much of an organized way to speak out about it. People that run blogs and websites need content, so it's like, there's some content, 5 people on Twitter, hundreds, whatever it is, then you make it into a story. So now he's trying to say that essentially the backlash to this film, the backlash to The Last Jedi, was a part of the clickbait culture, that all of us that came out of the woodwork, all of us that started to make these videos, it was just because we wanted the clicks, it was just because we wanted the views. It had nothing to do with the fact that we are fans and did not like the current state of Star Wars and did not like what they were doing with the product. It has nothing to do with that. No, we were just people who were like, oh my goodness, there's a story, let's make content. No, that's not how it works. That's not how it works. Oh, look at that, the giant BB-8. You make a movie and people are supposed to like it or not like it or not care about it. Those are the only 3 options, so it's not shocking that one of those things happens. So he seems to be pretty, he's acknowledging that it exists, but at the same time, when you have We Got This Covered and Oscar Isaac kind of downplaying it, trying to say, oh yeah, it's just a few people out there that are crazy, a lot of other people like it. Again, do people like The Last Jedi? Sure. Do people like the current state of Star Wars? Sure. But there are a lot of people still. Again, I like to go to that 50-50% because I feel like it's the most fair representation of what's going on in the fandom. And when you look to that, you see a lot of people who are angry. And it's not just because, oh my goodness, they just don't like a strong female protagonist. That's what they don't like. Even though we can point to several different films with a strong female protagonist that a lot of people who are fans of Star Wars also like. Ripley. Ripley. I mean, we could go all day talking about different characters and strong female characters. So that's obviously not it. Oh, they're just racist. They don't like representation in film. Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure that's what it is. It has nothing to do with the story arc. It has nothing to do with the narrative flaws. It has nothing to do with hyperscript ramming or anything else. Instead, it's just because we are a bunch of white, male, privileged people who can't look past our own biases. And that is what they see, and that is what they say. And all of us here in this community know that it's not true, which is why we're able to take that and say, no, you're wrong, you're stupid, here's how you're stupid, and guess what? I'm still here to have a dialogue and have a conversation with you, while they're saying, no, I can't have anyone that has a different opinion than me. No, my safe space. You see how there's a difference there? There's always a major difference in this conversation that we're having. You have people on one side who run away from discussion, who would rather call people, like Chuck Wendig. Chuck Wendig would rather go out and call people a bunch of racists, a bunch of sexists, just because they voted a certain way, or just because they have a certain view on Star Wars. That's what they want to do. And then on the other side, you say, no, we're going to call you out. We're going to call you out on your nonsense. But at the end of the day, if you want to have a conversation, we're going to engage with a conversation. We're not going to hide away behind a block wall like Chuck Wendig and so many of his other friends will do. But guys, what are y'all's thoughts about this? Do you think Oscar Isaac just needs to stop putting his foot inside his mouth? Because I feel like he's been on a roll with that lately, especially with his talk about how apparently Poe Dameron is pansexual now. But guys, I would love to hear your thoughts about it. Please let me know in the comments below. If you like this video, hit the thumbs up, hit that subscribe. It helps me out a lot. You are all amazing people. Let me know about Oscar Isaac. Let me know also your thoughts on Iron Fist. I really do think that this is not the show that should be canceled at this point, but we know that Jessica Jones is never going to get canceled because of identity politics. But anyway, guys, have a great day, and as always, God bless.